Welcome to Crime Desk Wednesday. Let's dig in.
Okay, if you're looking to get up to speed quickly on some really complex, high-stakes security issues, well, you're definitely in the right place. Today we're doing a deep dive into a stack of source material, and it really charts this terrifying, frankly sophisticated evolution of organized crime in South Africa. We're focusing on the period between 2020 and 2025, and what the sources are showing is this pretty stunning shift. You've got three major crime types: cash and transit heists, vehicle hijackings, kidnappings that, used to seem separate, but they're not anymore. They've actually merged. They've created this incredibly fluid, interconnected, criminal economy is the term used. So our mission today, analyze how this works, show you the kind of blueprints these syndicates seem to be using now.
Yeah, and getting this insight is absolutely crucial because the stakes are just completely different now. You really can't look at these incidents as isolated things anymore. The data consistently shows, a high-volume hijacking today can directly generate the resources, maybe the actual vehicles, needed for a high-value CIT heist tomorrow. And that success, well, it fuels the complexity and frequency of strategic kidnappings. So understanding this integrated threat, it's vital for anyone in South Africa's urban areas, security teams, businesses, even just, everyday commuters.
Okay, right. Let's unpack this criminal triangle then. Maybe start with the sheer scale, the impact of these three crimes.
Right.
Let's kick off with what the research calls the heartbeat of street-level crime, vehicle hijackings. I mean, the numbers are just, 55 to 60 vehicles stolen daily. Across the country.
Daily, that's the baseline rhythm you were talking about. That's the pulse.
That's the pulse, exactly. The rhythm of the underworld economy.
And that high volume, that's like the base layer, right? The daily operating income, you could say. But contrast that with the cash and transit attacks, the CIT heists. Now, these are much lower frequency, maybe 150, perhaps 200 incidents a year, something like that.
Still sounds like a lot when you think about what they are.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But compared to hijackings, it's lower volume. But they represent the absolute peak of criminal capability. High impact, high value. They require serious planning, deep preparation.
And then there's the third piece, which has seen this dramatic, almost unbelievable surge.
Yeah.
Kidnappings.
Yeah.
Just pausing on that number. 17,061 reported cases in 2023-24 alone.
Yeah.
That change, a 264% increase over the last decade, that just fundamentally alters the security landscape for everyone. It feels systemic, not random.
Yeah, it absolutely is systemic. And if you map this onto the geography, the sources show a very clear logistics network. Gauteng, Johannesburg and Pretoria, that's the main hub. Volume, coordination, it's got the dense population, the economic targets. Then you have KwaZulu-Natal, KZN. That provides these crucial corridors, right? Access for cross-border smuggling, quick escape routes.
And the Western Cape, down south.
The Western Cape seems to host more operational bases, and the syndicates there, they often weave their activities directly into the existing gang economies. Think drug distribution, extortion rackets, that kind of thing.
So it's truly a national network we're looking at, not just pockets of trouble.
Exactly. It's interconnected across provinces.
Okay, let's zoom in on the top of that triangle first.
Oh.
The CIT heists. The reports keep using this phrase, paramilitary operations on wheels. And looking at the evidence, that doesn't feel like an exaggeration, does it?
Not at all. These are surgical strikes. They're designed to breach maximum security vehicles, often in incredibly short amounts of time. Precision is key. And what's really fascinating, or maybe terrifying, is that the operation often starts weeks, sometimes even months, before the actual attack, before the explosives go off. It takes immense planning. Crews are doing meticulous surveillance. They're tracking routes, guard movements, studying patrol timings, identifying those little moments of, predictable vulnerability.
And that weak link.
Yeah.
It often comes down to insider help, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Someone on the inside.
Absolutely essential in many cases. Yeah. Employees, maybe security personnel themselves, corrupted to leak critical schedules, or perhaps vulnerabilities they know about in the armored vehicle, sometimes even disabling tracking systems just for a crucial window.
Wow.
It's that breach of trust, and it's often factored right into the criminal plan, into the blueprint.
And the execution. It sounds like pure coordinated violence. The sources detail this, like choreographed use of multiple vehicles blocking, decoys, creating chaos. And then that signature, terrifying element, using commercial or even military-grade explosives to just blast open those armored doors.
Precisely. There's a case detailed from Pretoria, 2023. An R5 million van hit on, get this, a leafy suburban main road, broad daylight. Shows the sheer audacity.
In a suburb, not some isolated highway.
Exactly. The reports show 3 vehicles converging almost like magnets onto this busy road. Extreme precision. They didn't slow down, didn't hesitate. Boom. Pinned the armored van instantly. Explosives used immediately, very efficiently. And then the cash, it's immediately dispersed into 5 separate getaway vehicles, pre-parked, strategically placed nearby.
5 cars.
Yeah. That detail, the pre-staged cars ready to scatter, it just screams planning. This isn't impulse. This is crime rehearsed, probably down to the second.
Okay, so that's the peak, the heavy artillery. Now let's circle back to that daily tax you mentioned, the thing that keeps the system oiled, the hijackings, 55 to 60 a day. That volume is what feeds resources upwards, right?
That's right. It fuels the machine. And the research really highlights how regional differences kind of reflect local demand or opportunity. Gauteng is still seen as the perfect hunting ground. Why? Dense traffic. Specific choke points, highway off-ramps are notorious. Plus, lots of high-value vehicles creates unavoidable targets.
Makes sense. But in KwaZulu-Natal, it's different.
The motive there often seems, well, sharper, more specific. Hijacked vehicles might be immediately rerouted for cross-border smuggling into neighboring countries. Or, and this is crucial for the convergence point, they're used directly in CIT heists as blockade vehicles.
Okay. So the vehicle itself isn't just about its resale value anymore. It's become a disposable tool for another crime. It's a really big shift in thinking.
Precisely. It's a tool of the trade. We see this illustrated really clearly in a Johannesburg case from 2024. They were targeting e-commerce delivery vans, but the syndicates weren't always after the van itself, especially if it was just a standard model. They wanted the cargo. High-value stuff, electronics, branded clothing, luxury goods.
Things that can move quickly.
Exactly. That stuff flows straight into well-established black markets, organized operations.
So these hijackers, they're acting less like, opportunistic street criminals and maybe more like, like sophisticated logistics managers for an illegal supply chain, keeping the illicit goods moving.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. They run it like a business, focusing on disrupting legitimate logistics, making sure stolen goods are laundered fast through informal networks. It's about maximizing profit, minimizing the time they hold on to anything hot.
Which leads us neatly to the third and maybe the most alarming part of this triangle, that massive spike in kidnappings. They've really transformed into a kind of strategic lever for these groups, haven't they?
They absolutely have. And we really need to dig into the motives here because it's gone way beyond just simple ransom demands. Now, ransom is still common, don't get me wrong. And it's often negotiated with this chilling professionalism, encrypted apps, burner phones, the works. But the critical convergence point, and this is really what you need to grasp from the reports, is robbery facilitation.
Wait, hang on. Robbery facilitation. So the person isn't kidnapped just for money. They're basically used as a temporary tool for another crime.
That's the key insight, yes. The kidnapping becomes a way to gain immediate leverage or extract time-sensitive intel. You abduct, say, the CIT van driver before the run, or the logistics manager who knows the warehouse codes, maybe even a high-ranking security exec. Why? To force them to reveal critical details. Vault combinations, alarm codes, maybe just to ensure their compliance during a bigger upcoming operation like that CIT heist. Their utility is tactical. It makes the abduction a functional part of pulling off the high-value crime.
That element of strategic use, that's incredibly dangerous. But the reports also mention, and we shouldn't ignore this, the darker side too, abductions feeding into human trafficking networks.
Yes, that's a grim reality highlighted in the sources. These kidnappings can also feed regional and transnational shadow economies, with young women being disproportionately targeted. It shows the criminal economy has multiple, often horrific revenue streams running in parallel.
And the methods used for these kidnappings, how are they doing it?
They reflect the intended utility. The sources detail very targeted home invasions. Sometimes it's fully integrated with vehicle hijackings. The kidnapping happens right there on the street during the robbery. And they use safe houses, sometimes mobile ones, moving the victim around to prevent detection while they wait for the information they need, or the ransom payment. If we chart this evolution over the 5 years the sources cover, you can see exactly how they learned to connect these different crimes. In 2020, 2021, what the reports call the pandemic shadows phase, you saw opportunistic kidnappings rise. Streets were quieter, targets perhaps more isolated. Made sense. Then, 2022, 2023, you get the heavier firepower era. The tactics hardened significantly. Military-grade rifles, explosives used with real confidence. The line blurred between gangs and what felt like actual paramilitary units operating on public roads.
But the real crisis point seems to be now, 2024-2025, the full hybrid tactics phase. This is where the sources show that seamless resource swapping you mentioned. Can you tell us about that Durban case study from 2023? That sounded like a prime example.
Yeah, that case is a perfect snapshot of this resource fluidity. A victim was kidnapped during a standard vehicle hijacking on the M4 freeway. That's a key coastal route in KZN. Okay, so kidnapping during a hijacking. Standard enough, maybe. But days later, the victim's stolen SUV, now fitted with cloned license plates, was identified as a getaway vehicle used in a massive CIT heist hundreds of kilometers away on the N2 highway.
So the hijacking directly enabled the kidnapping, and then the stolen item from the hijacking became a crucial tool for the next big crime.
Exactly. The theft fed the kidnapping, and the stolen asset was repurposed for the high-value heist. Direct link. Resource swapping in action.
That shows incredible resourcefulness, maybe adaptability. But that Johannesburg corridor case study you mentioned earlier, that seems to take the long game planning to a whole other level.
It absolutely does. The research details this really complex multi-night operation back in 2023. Syndicates hijacked 3 separate delivery vans over several nights, targeting them along a key logistics corridor in Johannesburg. Critically, they didn't hit them for the cargo. They weren't interested in the contents this time. They held on to the vehicles. They actually retooled them for one specific purpose.
Which was?
To use them as heavy weighted blockades during a major CIT heist planned for the 4th night. They basically turned the hijacked vans into weapons for the main event.
Wow. That shows incredibly sophisticated multi-day coordination. You're blending hijacking logistics directly into what amounts to a paramilitary operation.
Precisely. It's long game strategy.
And none of this hyper efficiency would be possible without a pretty sophisticated structure underneath it all. The sources talk about these syndicates not being just random crews. They're structured, right? Hierarchies, kingpins, lieutenants, tactical squads.
Absolutely. They rely heavily on specific specialized crew roles. That's what enables this seamless convergence of different crime types. Think about the level of specialization needed. You've got the scouts and observers. These are the real eyes on the street. They're monitoring everything. CCTV blind spots, police patrol timings, traffic flows. They feed real-time intelligence back to the operational teams.
Okay, so they're the intel gatherers. What about the people involved in the action itself?
Well, you have crucial roles like the drivers and blockers. These guys are experts at controlling vehicular chaos, especially in dense urban settings, creating the space, managing the escape. Then you have the extraction specialists. Their job is purely technical, focused on speed and discretion, moving the loot, or sometimes the kidnapped victims, across multiple transfer points, maybe different vehicles, different safe houses. They're often the ones responsible for dealing with complex vehicle tracking systems too, neutralizing them, jamming signals. Very specialized skill set.
And what about the negotiators? The ones handling communication during a ransom situation.
Exactly. They maintain incredibly strict operational security OPSEC, usually using a constantly changing selection of encrypted messaging apps, burner phones. They have to avoid any trace. They're basically running professional high-stakes business negotiations. Their goal is to ensure the syndicate maximizes its return, whether that's ransom money or the critical intel they need from the abducted person.
The cost of all this.
Yeah.
This specialized converged crime, it's just immense. Our deep dive clearly shows the millions of rands lost directly to these syndicates. But then there are the huge secondary costs too, right?
Massive, yeah.
Sharply rising insurance premiums for businesses and individuals, and just severe operational disruption. You see major security companies like G4S, Fidelity, constantly having to react, rethink their protocols, invest in countermeasures. It's an arms race.
It really is.
Yeah.
And while those financial figures are staggering, there's also the psychological cost. The sources consistently highlight this. It's the steep price paid by the victims, their families, and honestly, the wider public to live under that kind of constant threat, the one detailed in these reports, knowing that a simple stop at a traffic light, a drive home, could potentially turn into a violent, coordinated abduction or robbery. Well, it creates a profound public trauma, a sense of vulnerability.
So wrapping this up, what does this all really mean for the security landscape moving forward? Our deep dive seems to reveal that South Africa's underworld is, well, incredibly fluid, highly adaptive, very organized, often managing to stay, it feels like, one step ahead of the traditional systems trying to combat them.
Yeah, that's the picture painted. And look, this raises a really important final question, something for you, the listener, to maybe mull over. Given that this crime convergence is clearly enabled by these robust, specialized, almost corporate-like structures, and given that the reality on the streets often changes faster than traditional policing strategies can adapt, how much of a difference can localized community vigilance really make? That street-level knowledge, which the sources themselves state is absolutely crucial for personal survival, how effective can it realistically be against these highly coordinated groups that are acting with, let's be honest, near military-like efficiency? It really poses that fundamental question. Localized resilience versus organized national-level force. Where does the balance lie?